right, everybody. Welcome to the Squared Ring Podcast. We appreciate the couple hundred views we're getting. We need some more, but a lot of you are not subscribing, so hit the subscribe button. We want to hit our goal of 10 by 2024.
10? How many we got?
8.
Oh, wow.
We can get it. We can get it.
We only need 2 more for the whole year? Is that what you're saying?
2 more to hit our goal. We got to start low, and we'll progress.
Oh,
as
my
we
God.
go. But I keep my expectations low. Other than that, through
Bobby, don't you have a family of 10? Can't you just get them all to subscribe to the YouTube channel?
I think all my kids do have YouTube.
There you go.
Oh, and for anybody else, we finally, and when I mean we, I mean me, finally have an Instagram. It is the Squared Ring Podcast on Instagram. It's on the hyperlinks on our banner page. That's new this week too. Click on it, go follow, and we will follow back. And we'll post, not daily, but throw some pictures up of Bobby and Jim. Even ones that go back 10 years, 12 years.
Why no pictures of you?
Nobody comes on here to see my ugly ass or hear me. They come on here for you.
Oh, no, nonsense. Nate Dogg in the house, that's what they're coming for.
I put an Easter egg on the banner. If you view the YouTube page on your TV, it'll actually show a full picture of me in there. But if you view it on your laptop, your PC, your phone, you're not seeing anything.
So it's a little hidden gem is what you're trying to say.
Yep, it's a little Easter egg. If you want to see my ugly ass, it's on there. All right, as we said last week, we have a year in review coming. Short year in review, then we have some controversy to get into.
Before we go on to that, just along the same lines of subscribing, hit us up with your comments. Let us know what you're into, if you're more into the history of wrestling, or if you're wanting to talk about current day wrestling, just let us know, and we can kind of make a video towards that area that you want to hear about or talk about.
I say even give us some talking points. Tell us some of your dream matches or questions you have about the business or anything you want to know.
The more you guys interact with us, the more we'll be able to do for you.
Going into the review, it's hard to narrow down all the shows because, man, Herb has had us booked a lot.
It's been a great year.
It's been a great year, and just Herb has already had his TV program out this past Sunday.
Good evening, SICW wrestling fans, and Happy New Year. Herb, here we are, Sunday, January 1st, 2023.
Already starting off the new year, and I'm telling you, I'm really excited about it. And the SICW fans have been getting a lot of calls, just bragging and raving about 2022. And I said, well, if you thought that was something, just wait for 2023.
I don't think you can do better than you did in 2022. I think that's a challenge that you're probably up to trying to conquer.
Well, the SICW fans, as we said for all these years now, are the greatest, and they were happy. So if they're happy, I'm tickled to death. And we've got a lot planned for 2023. But before we, even though it's today starting off, it was a good idea you come up with to have a little review of what we all did in 2022.
Well, and Herb, for the next hour, we got a bunch of things we're going to talk about, and we're going to run through a lot of stuff really quick. But I think it's good to give the fans a kind of a recap of just what SICW did in 2022, because I guarantee 2023 is going to be as busy, if not more.
It sure seems like it, the way things are falling into place.
Where he and Brian did their year in review. And just sitting there watching it, it's just crazy what we did this year for SICW. A lot of firsts this year, and then countless legends that actually, came through.
What was your guys, each of you, what was your favorite match that you participated in this past year?
I think, man, I can't do that. I can't tie it down to just one. Because I'm going to lean towards the Belleville Fairgrounds, mainly because I was born in Belleville, and to come back and have a match. It was the first time this year that me and Gary tagged together, and we went against. It wasn't Sean, so you couldn't see the professionals, but one half of the professionals, Matt, and we went against. Man, who was the other one? Was it
Joe Holmes with him?
No, it was the guy that you just wrestled for the belt. That
Kowalski.
you took the belt, Kowalski. So it was Matt and Kowalski, and we were able to take the belts off of them. So, anytime you can get in a match where a championship is on the line, you win it in your hometown. I mean, it can't get any better than that. So I have to lean towards that one. But man, there was some great matches, great shows. The big one that started off the year, I would have to say, it's Bobby's great show, I guess you would say, because it was the May show. It was the Bruiser Brody, Larry Matisek, Tony Costa Battle Royal. That one started that off because you had legends in town. So you had Barbara Goodish, which is Bruiser Brody's widow. You had Joyce Gable in town. You had Dirty Dutch Mantel was in town for that particular show.
For those of you that don't know the old school wrestling as much, that's also Zeb Coulter.
Yeah, get all those wrestling names in there. But Dirty Dutch, I mean, if you YouTube him, I mean, his name says it all. Dirty Dutch. He was a dirty player, I think he was right along with Ric Flair being the dirtiest player in the game. The reason I say it's, I don't know if it's Bobby's favorite night, but Bobby, what happened that night?
Well, that's when I got this great trophy right here. And like you said, Miss Goodish was there. She presented me after I won the Brody Memorial, and that was a great honor in of itself. Just having her present it to me and congratulate me.
Oh yeah. Someone had reposted the year when I won it. And yeah, she was there that night too, and just to have her get up in the ring and hand over that trophy and congratulate you for winning that. I mean, it's an honor of honors, especially in the St. Louis area.
And then it was almost a year later when we went to Cauliflower Alley Club, and she was working the table where you get your name tags, and she asked me my name, and I started saying, she's, hold on, I'm just kidding. She's like, I know the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup winner. She remembers you, and like, she's a great woman.
She is an awesome woman. Yeah, I mean, we hung out with her those nights too. So, I mean, she's not one that takes her husband's name and his elite status in the world of wrestling and like doesn't hang out with anyone under her. She took the time to hang out with everyone, talk to everyone who wanted to talk to. We went down Fremont Street with her a few times. I mean, not to mess up how I was going to plan to do this, but since we're talking about the Cauliflower Alley Club, that is a place to go every year. I mean, it was mine and Bobby's first time to go, and I think we're going to go every year. I mean, it's a club that helps wrestlers that are in need. Wrestling, unless you make it backstage and being a producer or getting up to the levels of like Triple H where you're basically running the show, there's no health insurance. And this club, it's a way for wrestlers to give back to other wrestlers, fans to give back, because it's $25 a year to join this club, or $300, I think it is, to be a lifetime member. And people that get hurt or get injured and don't have the money to pay for their surgeries. If you've been a wrestler or anything to do with wrestling, a referee, a promoter, or anything along the lines of that, they'll step in and help you out. But when they get together to celebrate, they get together. I tell you, there was people from all over when dealing with wrestling. I mean, you had Conan there, you had Rey Mysterio, so you had the Lucha Libres in there.
JBL.
JBL from the WWE.
Man, he was so tough.
You had a lot of the NWA's guys and the Mid-South guys. So you had the Rock and Roll Express. You had
Jerry and Jeff Jarrett.
Oh my God, that was just awesome. The Jarretts, their grandmother won an award, and they were talking about how she started in the business because, before Jerry Jarrett was a promoter, his mom was a promoter down in Memphis. So just hearing the life story about her and how that got them involved, and then how Jerry King Lawler tagged up with Jerry Jarrett, and started making their own Memphis wrestling show. I mean, it's just a great time. Everyone mingles with everyone. No one's stuck up. No one's hanging by themselves because they don't want to be bothered or talked to.
He even had Rob Van Dam was standing in the back of the room. I went up and talked to him. He was very cool and courteous and had no problem talking with people.
Yeah. And it's 3 days of wrestling heaven, I guess you would say, because we all ate together, we all drank together, we all went down, like I said, Fremont Street because it was in Vegas, and just partied the night away.
Drank?
Huh?
You drank?
No nonsense. Texans don't drink.
I can say I don't have any pictures of Jim or Bobby with drinks in their hand.
On that note, what's crazy too is some of you always got to bring it back to the past. I mean, a lot of the new guys, if you call out a name, some of these new guys they don't do their research, or they don't know who planted the seed before them, and sometimes even I don't. So you never know who's going to be there, and you can by looking at these people, you don't know who they are until they get announced, and then you realize, oh my God, that was the promoter from down south, or it's just crazy. And then you know who they are, and you get to mingle with them, and then you can pick their brain, or even get invited to their promotion and wrestle. So it's an awesome thing. It's for an awesome cause. You just got to do it, because there's just, I mean, even Nate, I know you're not a wrestler. You could be a referee because you're height, you're barely over the second rope, so that's a perfect for a referee.
Wait, can he see? If he can't
still
see,
taller than Ray.
Yeah, we can just put some glasses on you, even if you don't need them, and we can just knock them off for you, so you can be blind and count the wrong person out or something. But even you would have fun going there and hanging out with everyone. That's the point I was trying to get at. But
I think we went to bed. Awesome. I don't think we ever went to bed before 2:30.
Hey, some of that stuff you can't talk about, because what happens in Vegas.
What was up?
And it still unsolved a lot of problems.
I can tell you brunch buffets were awesome, though.
Oh yeah. Gotta love the buffets. But to get back on that battle royal, I just want to just say that was this year was the first year that we started the Sam Mushnick Award. Barbara Goodish, Bruiser Brody's widow, she was the first one to win that. And it's because she was, she's the widow of Bruiser Brody. So anytime Bruiser Brody was in town, she followed along. So she helps carry on because, like Bobby said, she was working at the CAC, so she was helping to give back to the wrestling community. She knows who Sam Mushnick was. She talked to him every time he come in. So, and once a year, coming to SICW and helping with the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup. It's one of her favorite things to do. She gets to bestow that honor of the next person, or it could be the same person that wins the battle royal. So, there you go. So I just want to throw that out there that we started that. So, it still ties back to wrestling at the Chase. Got to bring the history forward so the history doesn't get lost. That's how I feel about it. Anytime you can bring the history back, it's good for all the wrestlers, old and new.
Well, if you're going to talk history, you got to talk. This doesn't rank up on one of my favorites because I didn't get to be part of it. But that St. Louis History Museum show, that sounded cool. First time a wrestling show was ever held there.
You weren't part of that?
Bobby D was not in the card. I came and watched, but I did not get to wrestle.
Oh my God! So the History Museum. Forest Park. It was so cool. You're basically on a stage, and then all the fans were filling in the theater area. And I don't know. I guess it was just I used to run around in that history museum as a kid, exploring all the levels. It goes over the airplanes, and it goes over the Indians that were in this area, and talks about how they grew the corn for the first time, and just going through that history, and knowing that we were the first ones to ever wrestle in that building, and now we are part of history in that building. It was just awesome there. I can't believe you didn't make it on the card. That sucks, but it was a good show. I wrestled a guy named Sean Vincent, and I'll gladly say that it ended with his head coming off. Just one of those lariats that I delivered. So it was a great night, great show.
I say I probably got about 3 that are pretty far up there. We already talked about winning the Brody Cup. That Sandoval show that I got to do against Kowalski in a Falls Count Anywhere was a whole lot of fun. I don't think I had a match like that since I wrestled you in that hardcore match, Texan.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
But my favorite would have to be going back to the Little Devils and having all my fans there, my wrestlers and my people. Like you said, Belleville's, home. And then I think I was clearly the crowd favorite in my match. Felt like the walls were shaking.
I have to admit, I tried to steal a little bit of your thunder that night. I invited some of the kids in, but of course, not all of them came and got in the ring like you. But
you're just a little scared.
It was cool. But it was kind of cool because they were able to come in the ring and we signed autographs right there in the ring and they got their pictures taken with us, and I'm sure a lot of pictures with you. It was crazy. It was like he was one of the Beatles that night. When the Beatles came to town, how all the girls went crazy for him. Well, he just had all the kids. And I seen pictures. Some of the adults were getting in that ring too. So.
Oh yeah.
It was, and anytime you go back to Belleville, like I said, anytime I could get a chance to go back home and wrestle, man, there's nothing like wrestling at home.
Yeah. We are planning another one already for this year. We're hoping to set a date here in a couple weeks.
Nice. I'm hoping we go back to Sandoval too.
I know is it the school counselor? He's really wanting it. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he can get it done.
yeah, he knows a couple people.
Right, right. Now, I don't know if I've ever told you about this, Nate. And this isn't a wrestling show. Well, it's a wrestling show, but it wasn't a wrestling match per se or anything. So this year was a couple great things done with history. There was a new Wrestling at the Chase book that came out. Ed Wheatley wrote that book. It's more like a coffee table book, where it's a big book full of pictures that you can just open up and just skim through, and it talks about the Wrestling at the Chase days. It talks about how it got started with just a handshake on an airplane, with Sam Mushnick and one of the Copplers that owned Channel 11, how it started from that, and goes all the way through the glory days of it, and even how it kind of ended. It was great that book came out. It was even great that I made it into that book, so I'll just do a little self-promotion there.
Where can
Of
you get the
course,
book at? Where can you get the book at?
you can get that book anywhere. Anywhere
I
that,
believe we
Barnes &
still have it on
Noble.
SICW.org, don't we?
Yeah, you can get it off of that. Get it from Amazon. But it has a lot of cool pictures that some were unseen before. And like I said, it just goes through the glory days of it, having Thez around. That, not to change the subject, it was not really changing the subject, but Lou Thez was such an important part of the St. Louis wrestling scene. I mean, we never talked about it, but there was actually two NWAs, National Wrestling Alliance, and then there was the other NWA. The words are escaping me right now. But Lou Thez owned one, and then Sam Mushnick basically was putting together the other one. And then they kind of went to the bat against each other, but in the end, they decided it would be better for them to group together. But Lou Thez was a St. Louis wrestling
Legend, icon,
legend,
all the
icon.
above.
Yeah,
Pioneer, every word that you want to put.
yeah. And
I still look up his matches and learn from them and stuff that I use in today's matches.
there was about 5 months where I was just so addicted to watching his matches, and any matches really, in like the late 50s, early 60s. And I can just get lost watching those matches. It's just Lou
For
Thez.
me,
I would have loved to meet him.
it was just how he was a real hooker. Like he could
Oh
float
yeah,
from one move to the next, and it's like, how the hell did he get from here to there? Like I'd have to rewind it. Like I didn't understand it till I saw it 3 or 4 times. Like, oh, that makes sense now. It just took a couple times to make it click.
yeah. Throwback National Wrestling Alliance, and there was National Wrestling Association. So they were trying to both use the same, what is it, synonyms or acronyms? So, it just came back to me. So like I said, I have a lot of knowledge, but it just sometimes works a little slower than normal.
I think Attila made some of the knowledge go here and some of it over there, scrambled it up.
Oh, right. I've had a few matches with him now, so I know. It's like, whoa, what happened? But anyway, so Lou Thez, if you ever get a chance, there's a book out there that he wrote. It's like an autobiography called The Hooker. Now, it's nothing sexual like you would think it would with that name title, but back in the day when you were a strong wrestler who can legitimately break people's bones and injure them, you were a hooker. That's what they called it back in the Carney days.
And we're
And
not talking like someone that could throw a knockout punch. We're talking like someone that could put you in a hole and make your body hurt in 5 places.
yeah, and it's a great book. Um, I've probably wrestled. I've probably read that book at least 3 or 4 times. It's a very long book, but one interesting thing about that book is there's so many different copies of it because when Luthez wrote that book, he was older in his age, and if someone were to correct one of the things that he wrote about in the next edition, he would just change it. So each edition was like they had different parts changed in it. So I think that was kind of cool because it was legitimately, it wasn't a book that was like a #1 bestseller. So he would actually make the books himself. And then there was one last final run, and that was the version that I got, and that's that one has the nice cover on it and everything. I just want to say, Herb Simmons, I have seen that he has one of the original books that's like homemade, still in the like spiral type of ends that Luthez gave Larry Matisek to read through and pinpoint it, and correct a few things. So Herb has one of the original copies of that, which is great. I'm glad it survived.
When you mentioned the Head Over Heels, that's what I was going to mention. Like Herb's collection, like to help make that movie. That man has so many damn things. Or even when we were at the Cauliflower Club, and was it Jerry the King Lawler was doing that seminar, and he was talking about, or no, it was either him or Jeff Jarrett. One of them was talking about trying to verify something, and it was actually something from Herb's collection that verified it.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I would like to say I've seen a handful of what Herb has. I have not seen a
Probably saw like 2
lot.
fingers, not a hand.
But he always talks about how his collection alone can be a museum. And I tell him all the time that he needs to retire from his day job and just go wild with wrestling and start that museum and get all his film on the videotape or DVDs as it is now, or on the internet, because oh my God, the stuff that he has is crazy. But yeah, so the Wrestling at the Chase book, the Coffee Table book, led into a movie. And it was based off the same thing, Wrestling at the Chase, where he was able to interview some of the fans from back in the day. He interviewed some of the wrestlers, the current wrestlers, how Wrestling at the Chase is what got them into wrestling. Because my tag team partner is interviewed in it, Mr. Gary Jackson. Some of the fans that we still have today who were fans of the Wrestling at the Chase got interviewed. But again, it just started the whole beginning from the handshake all the way until the end. And it was kind of cool having that book that we were able to go through the pictures and then bam, seeing it on film. And it was by, was it 9 PBS studios or? Yeah, I know it was PBS that put it out.
Yeah, it was 9 PBS.
So they had like a grand reveal of it at their studios. They had it playing on the outside of the building. So it was like late at night. It was on the side of the building. We were all able to go there and watch it.
Wrestling ring set up.
Yeah, Herb brought the ring out, so all the fans that showed up can see what the wrestling ring is all about, how it's made, how it's put together, because they watched us put it together and take it apart. And then the traveling St. Louis Hall of Fame was there, so it had everyone that was inducted into the Hall of Fame, their plaques. Herb brought out some of the old postcards that Larry Matisek would mail out advertisements for the upcoming shows, because Herb has all of them, and I have a few, because I have one. I have this special one that I bought. I think I got off of Amazon. No, it was eBay, and I got it because Bruiser Brody was talked about very heavily in this one. But it flips open, and it starts talking about Harley Race and starts talking about Ric Flair. And I was able, being a wrestler, doing what I do, I was able to meet Harley Race and get him to sign it. I was able to meet Ric Flair, get him to sign it. Of course, Bruiser Brody was already passed by then, but it was so cool that I got both Ric Flair and Harley Race to sign the same program, basically. I mean, it's basically a program. It talks about the upcoming shows and who's in it and everything. So it was very cool. But Herb has the whole collection, and he was able to lay it out, and everyone was able to flip through them, so you kind of see who wrestled at the Chase, what belts they were going for. And also that night, two special cool things. Well, three. Cowboy Bob Orton was there on site. Now, his dad was at, matter of fact, he was on the first episode of Wrestling at the Chase. So his dad is in the first TV program of it. And so it's kind of cool to have him there. Now, eventually, when Wrestling at the Chase was at the end of the days, Vince McMahon had already swamped in and was trying to take over everything. That they did bring out, Hogan came through, and Bob actually came through at that part of time as well. So, his dad wrestled for Wrestling at the Chase, and then, Cowboy was able to follow up with that. So a lot of people remember. I sat with Bob the whole night, and there's a lot of people that came up and was talking about his father. And if you ever get the chance just to sit and talk about talk to Cowboy Bob Orton, you have a wide range. One, his son is Randy Orton, so you can talk about all the New Day wrestling, but you can also talk about his stage in his life in wrestling and his father's stage in life in wrestling. So you got that 3 generations. And, even Bob's brother was a wrestler too. So, I mean, it's the whole family was a wrestling family, but just to see there and have people come and talk to him about his dad, and then talk to him about his son. It was just really cool. But
Sounds like
like I
it
said,
went from hooker wrestling to glamour wrestling in just 3 generations.
well, I wouldn't say it's totally glam when Randy Orton was coming through. Because it was still there's there is a story, because Randy had started actually at the MMWA wrestling. When we would go to our practice gym to learn the ropes and everything, it was probably pictured. Randy Orton's picture was on the wall, and I tell you, he looks nothing like he looks today, because he was a little pudgy back in the day, and it's kind of funny. The people who taught me how to wrestle were the same people that taught Randy how to wrestle. And when the very first time I ever went to start learning how to wrestle, Randy had just left MMWA and went down south for the WWE. But so you had Gary Jackson there, you had Philly Blunt, you had Ron Powers. All 3 of those guys was able to get Randy's start into wrestling. And so I had just missed him being there. But you can tell they were very proud that they were able to start teaching him. And there's some videos out there. A lot of them you'll hear Randy talking about how he just made a phone call to his dad, and his dad actually got him to go down, like I said, the WWE. Details are escaping me. Bobby, do you remember the name of the Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Yeah,
So
that
he
was their
immediately
breeding
went
ground
to,
around that time.
Yeah, so immediately he went out there and started. What was no? You know, I take that back. It wasn't Ohio Valley Wrestling. It was Florida Championship Wrestling, I think.
I thought he went to Ohio Valley with Flash.
Did he? Yes, he did go with Flash. So a lot of interviews, if it was WWE produced, you hear him just going straight there. But there is an interview out there where he'll actually tell you, I started in St. Louis. I started, Gary Jackson and Ron Powers. So I mean, it's out there. But anything that's produced by WWE is more lopsided to the WWE style of things. As you can tell, I don't know.
I was gonna say it's gonna be redacted and a little bit.
You can tell with I don't know if you caught the new Ric Flair documentary that just aired last week. Um, it was nothing that you didn't learn already or didn't know already, because WWE has done the same Ric Flair biography like every couple of years, but they never mention his work in TNA. They gave him this big send-off at WrestleMania. They inducted him into the Hall of Fame. Him and Shawn Michaels had this awesome retirement match. I mean, hands down, one of the best matches around. So they sent him off with anything you can imagine as being a wrestler. I mean, the best retirement you probably could have.
The biggest stage.
And then he goes and wrestles for TNA. And, he wrestles there for at least 6 years, but they don't mention that at all. So it's like it's never happened.
According to WWE, they're the only ones that exist.
Yes and no. Sometimes they open that third door and bring in someone from AAA or let a wrestler go to Japan and wrestle. They just did that for that guy's retirement over in Japan. God, it wasn't Ultimo Dragon. It was one of the guys that throws the green mist.
Muda?
Spews. Yes. And it was it Nakamura? Was it
Shinsuke Nakamura went.
Yeah. They allowed him to go over to.
Wasn't he?
I believe he was. But that was like one of the first times in a long time. Back in the day, you can YouTube this. WWE and Japan wrestled each other all the time. I mean, you had Andre wrestling them. You had there's a classic match. I don't know the Japanese wrestler's name, but he went against Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan is like a man of 5 moves. However, this Japanese wrestler got him to actually wrestle.
He's like the god over there. Oh, this is gonna bother me on what his name is.
Oh, yeah. But you can look it up on YouTube land because it's really weird seeing
Nate,
Hulk
just
Hogan.
search Japanese wrestler. His name will pop up.
Keep talking.
But so back in the day, they were constantly working with each other, and then they kind of just stopped. So it's kind of now they'll open the door, I guess, if it's convenient for them, or
Antonio Inoki.
No, it wasn't him.
No?
No.
I'm pretty sure they wrestled.
I mean, they might have wrestled. There is another wrestling match. It's a shorter Japanese guy who's kind of like built, but he makes Hogan wrestle. Yeah. Matter of fact, I just recently seen it and watched it because something about seeing Hogan actually wrestle. I mean, he can do it if he wants. When you're that popular and you're the guy for so long, you don't have to do it. Less is more when you're that level or statue. But yeah, we kind of went way off the subject there, man. Anyway, so I said there's 3 great parts of it. of that heads over heels movie about wrestling at the Chase. I would say one of the great parts is a lot of us, the local wrestlers, were able to get involved into the movie, and you can see clips of us wrestling. We did that clash between the NWA champion Trevor Murdoch versus Tilla Khan. And those matches were put into the movie. And then some other wrestling shows that we did this year was put into the movie, just clips of it. But hands down, I think the best part of the movie is another Bobby spectacular. The movie fades to black, Nate. And as it fades to black, it's a picture of Bobby standing on the top rope, like with his arms out, and that's when the picture fades to black. So just to end the movie with Bobby, standing on the ropes, I think that
Hero moment.
It's a great year.
he wasn't even there to see it. I probably called Bobby like 15 times trying to get him to answer the phone because I was videotaping it, the small clips that I could, telling him, man, you fucked up. You should have been here and watched this, thing for you,
I believe I was coaching Little League Wrestling that night.
I would have said, sorry, kids, I got to go.
Since we're talking about different promotions and all of that good news, a little bit of controversy in this area as far as promotions go. The 25-mile rule.
So, yeah.
But we should start by explaining what the 25-mile rule is versus what people think it is.
Right. So the 25-mile rule was put together by all the boys in the locker room of SICW. It wasn't a Herb Simmons thing. It was talked about by us for a long time before it was actually implemented. And initially, when it was talked about, it was actually going to be 50 miles. But Herb is the one who actually said, no, let's just cut that in half and we'll make it 25. But what it is, and I used to feel the opposite of it, but I'll get involved in it in a second. But what it is basically if you wrestle for SICW, the boys are the ones that decided this, that they didn't want you to wrestle for any other promotion within 25 miles. Now, the
Doesn't
reason for
mean
this,
nobody else can wrestle in that area. That means you can't wrestle anywhere within that area.
yeah. So I mean, we have competitors come through the 25 miles, and a lot of them use the 25 miles as their title, like 25 miles to hell or 25 miles in your area.
Which, again, is not what the rule means. It doesn't mean you can't wrestle in the area. It means we will not work for you in the area.
Well, and all these other competitors are not really competitors. They're too small.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like night and day compared to what SICW is versus these other guys. You're talking about a bigger stage when you're talking about SICW. But so let me just go into detail more about it. So if you have a badass like Attila Khan, who's our champion, why would you let your champion wrestle for another promotion
when he might slip up and lose?
Yeah, you never know. He might, stuff happens in a wrestling match. You might get hurt.
I have a great real life example for this one. I have it written down here. So there's a YouTube channel called Crime Fighter YouTube channel, and they do a show on there called Pro Wrestling Central Illinois, where they show local shows from around the area. And I like to watch it, see what else is out there and stuff. On May 1st, 2022, episode number 322. It was at MMA South Broadway. You had CJ Shine versus Cayman. About halfway through the match, I think it's like 5 minutes and 20 seconds, 25 seconds. They say, "Oh, CJ Shine just won the Dymo something something title." 3 minutes later, he got pinned by Cayman, and
Yeah,
they
so
are
you have
15 minutes
yeah,
apart, like where they wrestle.
right. So you have one promotion promoting the other promotion, which is a great thing, and promoting him about how he was their champion. But at their show, he just lost. So you just told the world that a champion from another promotion just lost.
And Cayman wasn't their champion or anything either. He was just a guy climbing the ranks at the time. So he went in there, he slipped up. The one of their champions slipped up and lost to another guy. Now he's supposed to go back to Dymo and act like he's one of the best.
It makes them look bad. Makes the promotion
Yeah,
look bad.
So that was again where we say we will not work for you in those cases.
right.
Not you can't work there.
I mean, can you
The way everybody
imagine
else
if,
takes it.
again, if you're the champion and you go work for another promotion and you get hurt and now you can't defend the belt for the promotion that's pushing you, the promotion that, is, you earn the championship belt from them. So they're going to put their whole advertisement around you, like in Attila's case, you know, you're the champion of SICW. So when you get opportunities to wrestle the champion for NWA, that is like a golden meal ticket. But why would you let your champion wrestle for another organization that draws 20 people and gets hurt? I mean, so the 25 miles is one to protect yourself and to protect your promotion. You know, um, a lot of people will say, "Oh well, it must suck working over there because you can't wrestle for who you want to." I can wrestle for who I want to. I choose to wrestle for who I want to. If I want to go beyond the 25 miles and wrestle for a new breed, or wrestle for ACW, or wrestle down in Memphis, anywhere else, if I choose to wrestle there, I can go and wrestle there. But I'm going to protect myself in my local area. So if if the company's behind me, I'm not going to screw them over and wrestle right down the street and lose to someone by chance and
Get
make
hurt.
me look bad and make my company look bad. A lot of people is putting it out there. Oh, well, you can't wrestle for no one. How sad is that? Well, you know what?
Not at all. We choose this. This
Yeah,
was our choice, not theirs.
to name off the places that we've wrestled this year in the last few years, I would hands down wrestle for SICW versus any damn promotion out there.
We'll see. And I
You know,
think that's a big difference between our locker room and all these other guys that jump organization to organization is they look at getting themselves over and selling as much merch as possible. That's all they care about. We want to build our company. And that's the difference in the mindsets right there.
Nate, a lot of times too, they get people to jump to their territory to say they dangle a little belt and say, "Hey, if you come work for me, I'll throw this belt on you. You can become my champion." And that's actually been done a few times.
But why
Where
would you go from a promotion that has tens of thousands of viewers like SICW and then go to a promotion that has 20 to 50 just because of a belt?
Because they're going to
well,
say, well, we have all this crowd and you can sell shirts here. And then next week you can work down the street and sell shirts here. And then the next week you can break your body and sell shirts here. Then the next week you can break your body and sell shirts here.
see, and that's the thing. There's so many promotions here in Illinois that literally, if you don't work for SICW, you can probably work every single weekend, but you're
Sometimes
working
multiple times a weekend.
Yeah, sometimes multiple times, but you're working in such a close area. I mean, so yes, you're getting a lot of work. You're working, but
But
you're
you're,
working in front of the same crowd.
yeah, you're
That's not going to get you
oversaturating your own crowd. You're watering down
right.
your own name.
Let's just say I'm selling T-shirts for my fans. If I work for you know 5 promotions in a 5 mile area, how many? If you sell your shirts the first night, how many you think you're going to sell the second and the third and the fourth? Well, if it's the same fans because it's in the 5 mile area, you ain't going to sell anymore. So you're not. So and it pisses me off a lot when other promotions try to rub it in the face and get the fans involved, saying that people are held hostage. Because even there was one promotion that had it on the flyer about their goal was to save one of their friends from being a SICW wrestler, and they were going to save him. And I'm thinking, if he wanted to work for you, he could,
Herb
but
is
he's
not
choosing.
fenced.
I say we
But
can
he's
even use
choosing
somebody
not
that
to.
we can even use another example here. PT Beckham. He wanted to come back. He came back for what, 6 months or so. He was allowed to leave and go start working other places when he wanted to. No hostages. You want to work for us? You follow. Here's the way I look at it too. Every job I've ever had, I'm sure you guys as well, have had an employee handbook with rules you had to follow. You want to work there, you follow the rules. You don't want to work there, you don't follow the rules and you go work somewhere else.
Yeah, as I'm saying, Herb is not fenced. Herb doesn't make you guys sign a contract that locks you in.
Right.
It's completely different.
You know, who wouldn't want to work a promotion that has the history behind it, uh, and that gets you involved in making new history? Because there's some shows that we haven't even talked about. You know, we've wrestled at the Grizzly Stadium. We wrestled at the Missouri Athletic Club. And the Missouri
First time in
Athletic
St.
Club,
Louis History Museum history.
right? The Missouri Athletic Club, this is like the most private, most expensive club that you can be at because this is all like doctors, lawyers, sports people. So you got baseball players, you got hockey players, anything on that highest level that you can think of. Those are the members of this club. And it was like the closest thing to wrestling at the Chase, the older version. You know, because wrestling at the Chase, you had the version where they were all fancied up, dressed in the to the nines, and then as it moves on, when it changed buildings, then it started to be, you know, not as fancy, where they were still, um, you know, they weren't in the suits and the ball dresses. They were just dressed normally. This was a throwback to that age where everyone there was in a suit. All the girls that were there were dressed to the nines. You had,
The ring
you
girls
know,
were dressed in nines.
you had everyone was smoking the most expensive cigars, drinking the most expensive whiskey, eating the most delicious steaks. Might I add, because I got me a plate
The
there.
only wrestler there to get a plate.
I was well liked there.
And from what
Um,
I understand, he did provide free booze for the rest of the wrestlers in the room.
I even shared my steak. So, and I tell you, man, that steak was to die for. And I let some people eat off my plate. And then, you know, I was having bottles of whiskey, bottles of scotch given to me. And I shared the wealth. So I can't wait to go back there again. It was nice.
If you were in
But
another promotion, that wealth wouldn't have been shared because that's not what they want to do.
Right. And if you're at another promotion that don't have that history attached to it, so you can't get at that level.
So I believe in something that was taught to us young into our training. I didn't believe it as much back then, but everybody's got a bump card. Your body can only handle getting thrown down so many times, hit so many times. When I was younger, it's like, do it as much as I want, it don't matter. Get a little bit older, you can feel it. And so that's another part of that. We can work twice every weekend if we wanted, or we can do one or two a month and mean something.
Right. And that's the thing. Have the shows you do be something, mean something, spectacular, versus a show that you just put together, like I said, draws the 20 or 25 fans and hurt yourself by taking the bump. It could be your last bump on your bump card, and you just ruined it, and you went out in that style, It just pisses me off that a lot of people are saying that we're held hostage. I wrestle so many other places besides SICW, but
Well, that's what I was
SICW is
going to
my
bring up on
home.
the whole topic too, is how so many people say that Herb won't work with others. That's not true. He's worked with Space Cowboy. He's worked with Burt Prentice. He's worked with ACW and Searcher. He worked with Tony Sr. and tried with Tony Jr.
He works
I
with
just,
Newbury.
yeah, I just
Yeah,
think it's
not Newbury.
ridiculous that people want to say shit they don't know for dollar beer night. That's just stupid.
And I don't even care that they do it. Again, like, if you want to do that to yourself, that's the route you want to go for it. I wish you success. I don't need you to fail for me to be successful. Go down the street, wrestle twice every weekend, see how it goes for you. Good luck in your future.
Right.
It won't be a long one.
I heard just through the
It,
grapevine that we
it,
were
it
called
even might be a long
minions.
one, but you're going to be walking with a lot of limps and pains and everything else that you don't need to. Like,
Right.
there's plenty of people that do that do have a long career. Some of them that I really like Jeremy Lightfoot. He's had a super long career. But I'm going to guess, I can't feel what he feels, but I'm going to guess that his body hurts a lot.
One of the good things about Jeremy Lightfoot is he's actually giving back right now. There's a group called CHWA, was it CHW?
CHWA.
Yeah. So, and it's a bunch of young up and comers that started everyone gave them shit for being backyarders basically because they started with no personal training, no guidance. But you gotta give them some respect because they're learning and they're working places. And Jeremy is one of the trainers for them. And I got all respect for Jeremy. So I know if Jeremy's there, those guys are getting trained.
And even that group is getting better too. That crime fighter show that I like to watch where they go promotion to promotion, they do show a lot of CHWA on there. And then guys have gotten a ton better. Much props to that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Doing it every weekend, it's going to wear them down quick.
well, even this year, I was pretty much working every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend, but I was doing it for shows that were meaning things. I was wrestling for ACW, and we did an outside show that was great. It was for the book too, because Ed Wheatley was going around traveling, trying to sell and promote the book and the movie. I went down to New Breed a few times and wrestled. So I mean, to be called, and another thing that pisses me off, I heard through the grapevine that we were called minions, Herb's minions. Bitch, I have the power to do whatever I want. I choose to do what I want. If I don't want to wrestle for your show, I'm not going to wrestle for your show. If I want to wrestle 3 times in a month, 4 times a month, 6 times a month, I have the power to do that. but I'm also going to respect the promoters that have me on the card, and to respect myself and to respect the promotion, I'm going to do what the boys have come together to do. And it was a group that talked about this and got this rule going. It wasn't a Herb Simmons thing. I can't put that out there as much. It just sucks because I've had this conversation with a lot of people because every couple months it gets tossed back in our face. But these same people are people that either one worked for SICW
I say,
or
I
they're
believe one of the
calling.
biggest talkers was one of the ones that helped come up with it.
Right. But some of the other promoters are people that actually want to work together, but yet to their fans and to their wrestlers, they're all saying, fuck the 25-mile rule. But later that night, they're on the phone saying, hey, we could do great things together. Why don't you, I send some wrestlers over to you, you send some wrestlers over to me. We can work as a group. But in front of your fans and in front of your wrestlers, you're dogging on us. Well, fuck them. It's a dog and pony show is what you're doing because you secretly want to work with us, but you don't want to tell anyone that. So
I gotta say, and as far as calling us minions, and I don't even mind. I'll send you a screenshot if you want to put this up there. We didn't leave South Broadway to go to Herb. I could send you the screenshot where I was asked or I was told by Cayman that I was being removed from the group chat by someone above him because he was in charge of our little group chat. I was being removed, and I planned on going back there the next month still in wrestling at that time.
well, I don't know if I want to get into my side of it because well, fuck it. One of the promoters was actually at my house telling me that it's okay if I wrestled for him and I wrestled for SICW because I got 20 years in the fucking business and I've wrestled for both of these promotions almost all 20 years. And for someone to say that you're basically grandfathered in, and while he's standing in my driveway, and for the next time that SICW opens up, and I wanted to work both shows the same night, and then all of a sudden, no, you're not welcome. If you're gonna work for him, you're not working for me. That's bullshit. I worked for both of those companies forever, and for him to put a lot of us, a lot of people, like a Gary Jackson and me and Bobby and the professionals and a lot of these people that worked both promotions to all of a sudden get axed because your new role and you want the young rookies that you can control not to do it. So therefore, the vets that you were grandfathered in, now you got to retaliate against them, so you don't look bad talking to the rookies. So that whole thing is just a crock of shit. And for it to be blamed on us wrestlers, saying that we chose not to wrestle for him, we didn't choose that. That was chosen for us by him.
Seems like a
Because
bunch of high school drama bullshit is what it sounds like.
sometimes this wrestling business is like a high school drama. Because I've
And
been in
that is why I
promotions,
love the SICW locker room.
and that is so true. Because I was just going to say, I've been in promotions that you can talk to someone for 5 minutes and then walk away and hear them saying the total opposite of what they were just talking to you, because now they're talking to their friend. And we don't have that in SICW. Everyone wants to be part of this promotion.
And they want the promotion to grow.
Right. because I don't know if you guys talked or heard about what's coming forward on this year. You know, Herb is already planning on beating everything that he did last year. You know, more shows, you know, going all out for this Hall of Fame show, which is in May. You know, the list, you know, when he did the Spooktacular 2 years ago, he didn't you know, he didn't have a poster that had all the people that were there, that were going to be there. You know, he was smart. He, every couple weeks, he would throw out another person's name, and then you never knew when he was going to stop. There was like 11 legends that showed up that year. But
We
he
got
didn't let
three
you know
so
that,
far.
you know. Huh?
We got 3 so far that I have written down.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, you know, this year is the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's basically being sponsored by SICW. You got so far,
Brooklyn Brawler,
yeah, Brooklyn Brawlers coming. You got
Red
Tugboat
Outman.
coming,
Yep.
uh,
And
and
the Beefcake himself.
yeah,
Okay.
Brutus
Beefcake.
the Barber Beefcake.
But what I was going to say was Jerry Briscoe is going into the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
that's just one person so far. So you know Jerry Briscoe's coming. And you know, he has a podcast with another wrestler, a famous wrestler, and there's rumors. I can't, you know, ink the period to that dot, you know, on that sentence, but you never know. And then, so you got Jerry going into the Hall of Fame. You got those 3 special guests. Me and Bobby know about 2 other ones, but I heard, and I actually just heard this today, that there's going to be a lot more because there's actually a bunch of people coming together to put this show on.
Nice.
So a bunch of sponsors are sponsoring some legends to come in. So this is, you know, so you're going to have the Bruiser Brody, Larry Matisic, Tony Costa Battle Royal for the cup, for the trophy. You know,
Now, are you
you're going
going to
to have,
compete in this one, or
Oh
just
yeah, I
Bobby
gotta win it
defending? Or are you going
again.
to compete, Joe?
yeah, it's, you know, it's a free for all, man. Everyone is allowed to go into that. You know, if you're part of the roster, you can go in that and try to get it, or you can try to defend it and win it again. So,
So I can't sneak in with a zebra stripe and win by default?
no, no, unfortunately not. But you know, they're talking about having the fan fest during the earlier part of the day. So everyone who, you know, once all the legends get released on who's all going to be there, you know, there's going to be time for the common fan to just come in and meet them and get their autograph or their picture. And you know, of course, you know, you got us that's going to be there. You got the show, the wrestling show itself. You know, it's going to be an all-day thing. So I mean, it's another
It's gonna be
show.
huge.
Yeah, it's going to be another great show.
You
You know,
did
and
Trump. You did Trump too well there, Bobby.
then,
Am I that orange?
but you know, even this month's show. I mean, you got
Huge.
Kevin Sullivan
Yeah.
coming in. You know, you got Andrew Anderson coming in.
Are they both
So
on the 14th?
yeah, that's
Yep.
this one on the 14th. So you already got 2 legends that are coming in for this show. And I tell you, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to Herb's Facebook, but the last couple days has been nothing but Flash Flanagan matches. And that's who this Andrew Anderson's going against. So it's been matches with him versus Rick Steiner, him versus Chris Jericho. You know, it's just, and you know that match that you put a little bit in of him falling off the balcony. You know, he really showed that one. God, that had to hurt.
He didn't get up for a while, I can tell you. I can
Oh, I
tell you
bet.
that.
But you know, then you got our 6-man tag match. where it's me, Bobby, and Gary Jackson versus Attila, Prater, and Peyton. So we got that match this month.
Elimination
And then
tag.
elimination tag. And then you got the East St. Louis show that's got, what's the date on that one, Bobby? I know you got that.
That is March 25th at the Shriners Temple in East St. Louis. And
There
we
you
have
go.
Cowboy Bob Orton and Tony Atlas coming to that.
There you go. You know, Tony Atlas was one of the first black tag team WWE tag team champions. You
He was
know,
with
he won
Rocky
it with
Johnson, correct?
Rocky Johnson. So it was the first black tag team to ever win that those titles. Um, and you know, Bob, you know, like I said, I have the privilege of being and hanging out with Bob every week. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. Again, because of SICW, that I get to hang out with Bob Orton every week. Why would I fuck that up to go work for another smaller promotion? Sorry just to throw it back in there, but it still fucking irritates me.
Which anybody on the roster could come to the training gym and hang out with him.
This is, I got one of the posters for this coming month. Nate, I'll give this to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. But you know, it's got your two best buddies right here. So
Yeah, I have that. If people go back and watch, which you should, all the other episodes, two of the screenshots for the split up episode, the part one and part two is that poster on the screenshot. So
well, good, and that means I can save it for my stuff then. So never
yeah,
mind,
you can
Nate.
say,
All right.
well,
That was one
do
of
we
the
have
things that
one?
Herbie talked about on the recap show Sunday was all the different posters, and I couldn't believe how many posters I made it on this year. I made it
Right.
more on this year than all my other years combined.
Well, that's because you're undefeated right now,
I guess that
and
helps.
Yeah,
you're
the
the
belt
Central
and the
States
trophy.
champion.
I guess it helps a little bit.
You're right.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it
Your
gotta
win
hurt to
never
be
hurts.
that good, guys, huh?
But so I guess just to get back on track with everything, so we wrestled at the Grizzlies this year, which was great. They took us good guys onto on top of their
Dugout?
dugout and played a little trivia game with us during the baseball game. You know, so that was kind of neat. I mean, not kind of. That was really neat.
Which we
We
won.
right, we did win the trivia contest. But we got to wrestle on the side of the field. I think there was like 4 or 5 matches, and you were able to go to the wrestling matches and go to the ball game as well. It was all one price. You know, and the last time we did that, you know, that was a star-studded event too. You had Jerry the King Lawler to that. You had Kurt Angle on that. I mean, again, why would you work anywhere else? But so we worked at the Grizzly Stadium. We worked at the History Museum. I am still a fan of the NWA. You know, Billy Corgan, he's he's the owner of it. You know, they just came to, you know, they came to town. This is the second year in a row that they've come. Trying to capitalize again on wrestling at the Chase, you know, because that was part of the NWA. Sam Mushnick was the president. So again, you know, they know that St. Louis is the hotbed for wrestling. You know, so out of everything that's out there right now, WWE, AEW, the fake Ring of Honor, you know, Impact, you know, the NWA is not grand scale like WWE, and I think that's why I like watching it more than the other ones. Is they're a little rough, you know, but you
Well, they
know,
also
Trevor.
contracted the past few years too, though.
Well, you know, they've got great wrestlers. I mean, Trevor Murdoch is a great wrestler. Nick Aldis is a great wrestler, and that's leading me into where I'm going with this. Nick Aldis is such a technical wrestler, and he was the the flag bearer of the NWA. But he came to SICW and he wrestled our champion Attila Khan. And it was such a great match because you got, and I'm going to steal this from the recap. You got a brawler from Attila Khan and you got a technical wrestler for Nick Aldis. And they had to work, you know, they had to switch up their games to be able to work a match. Of course, you know, Attila's little fraction came out and you know, I had to take control of everything, but you know, I was able to slide in and help Nick Aldis. Curtis Wild was able to slide in to kind of even the playing field. But just the NWA champions that came through this year.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If you're gonna talk
and last year.
NWA and people that we brought in, you got to mention Tommy Rich.
Oh my God, Tommy Wildfire Rich. He was the youngest NWA champion forever. I don't know if he still currently holds that title, but I tell you what, he Wildfire in his name. He is Wildfire. You know, he's crazy, but crazy in a good way. I mean, that guy, it's like off the wall. But you know what's really cool about it is, you know, so it's no secret. I helped train with Bob. You know, Bob is of course the head trainer of the Ace Academy. You know, a few of us, you know, even Bobby's come down there on special nights and help train. But I'm one of the select few that's there every Tuesday night. But us trainers, we got to work with Tommy just to make sure we're keeping up on our stuff. And then we actually got to have all the people that come in for training session as well. So we got to, you know, Tommy got to put their knowledge into us into them. So overall, you know, we were able to, I think there was probably about 15, 20 people in that training session. Because, I mean, all the students, I mean, some of these people weren't even our students. They just showed up to get trained by Tommy, you know.
Was it 3 or 4 of them said they drove from Kansas City to get trained by him?
So I mean, it was a great night of training. I can send you a picture there, Nate, because I know there's a Nate. I mean, I know there's a picture of all of us sitting on the ring, because there was actually like a Q&A afterwards too. So the guys got to ask questions to everyone. You know, so even Herb Simmons was there. Some other a new promoter that's in the works. He was there learning from Herb, learning from Tommy Rich. But yeah, so you had Tommy Rich, you had Nick Aldis, you have Trevor Murdoch. You know, all these legends and current legends, like I said, Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch, that's come through SICW. But yeah, so I mean,
Dan Severn, who was an NWA champion.
Yeah, so just going down the list, you know, before we get into Dan Severn, the Missouri Athletic Club, you know, like I said, that was like a throwback to wrestling at the Chase. We had legends there that night. We had Sergeant Slaughter in there. Again, Jerry the King Lawler. Jimmy Hart was there. Again, Bob Orton Jr. was there. So, I mean, like I said, it was a great night of wrestling. It was a great night of afterwards with some whiskey and some steaks and everything. And then it was a great night of hanging out with legends. So it was, like I said, it was a perfect night. But let's go to back to Belleville. This is the match that I told you I enjoyed the most because me and Gary won the tag straps that night. But Dan Severn had a training. And he went with half of the professionals because half Sean Soto is just like Bobby, where he teaches kids wrestling, and so he actually trained the little guys the night before the show,
which I took my son to.
Right,
and also stood out there and watched some things.
Dan Severn actually just recently posted pictures, and not even pictures. He posted one picture of that, and it was Bobby's son that he was grappling with. So, I mean, how cool is that? That Dan Severn picked that picture out of, sure, I'm pretty positive, multiple pictures that
Well,
people
there
were
are a lot
taking.
of pictures. And that man,
But,
you could see his passion when teaching them kids. Like, he loves wrestling, like plain and simple.
well, even the next day, like I said, again, me being one of the trainers, I showed up, we talked briefly, and then all the people that came in for that seminar was able, first, it was he didn't want to get in the ring at first. He wanted to know what everyone's aspirations were, where they were, if in their current training. He wanted to get to know you before he even got into the ring with you.
And he
And
kind of
then,
did that with the amateur wrestling too. He wanted to know what the kids' goals were, what they were looking for, things like that.
yeah, so I mean, Dan Severn is still the shit. I'll just say it. I know
And
I
he's got a
don't
great
want
mustache.
to. I know I don't want to. I'm doing a lot of cussing in this episode, which is bad. But and I
I won't
also,
throw you in the editing, I promise.
well, I normally tell Nathan not to cuss or as much, but and here I'm doing it. But yeah, so Dan Severn was awesome meeting, awesome to get some lessons from, helping me coach. It's just great. Um, I mean, so you had Dan Severn, you had Haku, you had the Barbarian. That was in a cage match
Dennis
against,
Conley.
yes. But the cage match was just a bloody match. You had they were going against Attila and Prater, and if I would have to say, I think they were busted open before they even got in the cage. That
There was blood everywhere.
oh my God.
I went out after the match, and it was just a bloodbath.
But again, these legends coming in, working with us, elevating us, us learning from them. It's just, we all, like the SICW roster, actually owe a debt of gratitude to Herb,
Yeah.
because without him, there's no way that we could have done everything that we've done in this business. I mean, I've been in #1 bestseller books. I've been in, of course, magazines. I've been in TV commercials. Um,
A
I even
documentary.
have, huh?
A documentary.
Documentary.
Yeah, I even have, well, besides the PBS documentary, there is a documentary of me for a whole, I think it was done over a 3-year period, basically, of this guy following me around. And the time period that he followed me around, I had to deal with personal issues as well, because my father passed away during this time period. Um, and he is, he's living in California now. I keep talking to him on a regular basis, but he is supposed to be first, this documentary was going into the St. Louis, what was it, film festival. So it went into the film festival. It ended up winning the category that it was in. So it went on to another one, and then it went on to another one. It kept climbing and climbing, and then COVID hit, which just canceled everything. And so the last time I talked to him, he talked about re-editing a few things, and then he wanted to throw it into another festival to see how good he can get at that in that one. And then when he's finally done with it, then he's going to put it on the DVDs, and then it's going to be released on YouTube and released where I can get a few copies and handed them out. So I've had documentaries. Like I said, I've been in books. It's just crazy, all the stuff that I've met the people that I admired when I grew up. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Harley Race. You can't get any better. You know, because I tell everyone, I was a WWF fan out the gate, but then when I became a wrestler, I became a Ric Flair, Harley Race, Bruiser Brody fan because there is a difference between performance and athletic ability, I guess you would say, technique. And when you're a kid, the WWE or the WWF at the time was the grand scale of having the likes of the Undertaker and the Ultimate Warrior and the Mr. Perfects, and
I was a WCW guy. I got to disagree with you on that one.
well, that's because you're younger than me.
I say we had
So,
Ultimate Warrior and Mr. Perfect.
but then once you become a worker and realize what it takes to actually wrestle, that's when I would say then you have to swing to the NWA/WCW days, Memphis area, the down south, the WCCW, because then you actually are trying to study uh, different people, and there ain't nothing better than watching some actual people who know how to wrestle and pulling from them versus a performance-based wrestling. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they pulled me back when Stone Cold came out, and you had The Rock, like the Attitude Era, but then again, everything was off limits. Well, no, let me replace that. Nothing was
Nothing.
off limits. So they didn't care about what sexual uh, realizations that they portrayed, or what
Innuendos.
innuendos, or Val Venus being a porn star, and in one episode gets his tip of his dick cut off. So it's just weird, crazy stuff. But like I said, once you're a worker, you realize what butters your bread, and that's when you start looking at the Ric Flair and the even Steve Austin when he was Stunning Steve. Steve Austin was a hell of a worker,
Mm-hmm.
and then he had the injuries build up, and then he had to adjust his style of wrestling.
Then he became a glamour model.
Well, I mean, he did it the hard way. He broke his neck, so he had to adjust so he wouldn't re-injure that. So I got to give him props. But to this day, he's probably the number one seller of T-shirts and memorabilia and everything else. So
At this last SmackDown show, they're still selling shirts with his skull on it, the smoking skull.
see, that's crazy. I mean, he's been retired for so long and still could sell a T-shirt.
Yeah, because when John Cena retired, you really didn't hear much from him in the wrestling world.
So I know you don't pay attention, and I don't really either. But so he popped up. He popped up last week, and he popped up with a bald spot. That's what
I
everyone
was gonna
talks
say, did
about.
you notice that big bald spot?
Yep, and I seen it all after I seen the clips of that match. Then you start seeing all the memes, and I seen one where it said it had the date on it. Was it 2022? Say hello to 2023, and the 0 and the 20 was John Cena's
His
bald spot. But and then the captions were like, "Don't you feel old now? Your hero when you're growing up is now got a bald spot." But so it's kind of cool being a wrestler nowadays. Like I said, I mean, there's multiple places to go and wrestle, even if you're on the higher level. You're having the NWA, having the AAA, having WWE, and AEW. Mr. Money Pockets right there with Ring of Honor in there as well. And then all the Japan companies So I mean, well, that's what I tried telling you too, because even like the WCW and NWA, there's two main companies in Japan. You had Baba, Giant Baba, and then you had the one that Bobby talked about earlier was
Antonio Inoki.
Naruki. And so if like WWF was wrestling with one, well then WCW and NWA was wrestling with the other. So you even had the likes of the Steiner brothers going out there, the Terry Funks, Stan Hansen, my idol, Bruiser Brody, my other idol, So you had them, Harley Race. Harley probably wrestled for them under the NWA banner and the WWF banner. So you had, they were always going back and forth. Even the new era, AJ Styles, yes, he wrestled in the States, but he got so much popular when he went over to Japan and started wrestling. And that's what caught the eye of WWE, and it's like, oh, you know what? He is good. We need to bring him over here. You have the Good Brothers, and they go by other names, but that Japanese guy, Nakamura, he was a strong style wrestling in Japan. They brought him over.
Asuka.
Yeah, Asuka. So there's always been a good vibe going back and forth. This is pretty much wrapping it up. The Fairgrounds was a great show. We have 3 great shows with legends already promoting for this year. And in Herb's wrap up last Sunday, him and Brian talked about how their plans is to beat last year. Now, last year to me was a great year, so who knows what's in store for us this year.
And I can tell you where I'm going to work with my choice, not hostage.
There you go.
I mean, you're not a minion?
I'm not a minion. I can work where the hell I fucking want. So,
if I get a zebra shirt, I'm going to bring you both bananas because I hear minions love bananas.
Oh. With that, like I said, I'm going to end it with I can work where the fuck I want, and I choose to work where I'm working.
You work where you want, I'll work where I want. End of story.
Right. So on that, it's the end of the wrap up, and to the future of the wrestling business. It's going to look great.